question. So this commenter is asking, do you have any tips for melodic dictation? So this is when you're listening to music and transcribing it. You have some tips that I think can help you. I think it can be an overwhelming process at first, so let's break it down a little bit. I really suggest starting with songs that you know a little better and that are easy. Even if you're just starting with kids songs, I recommend listening and playing around on the piano trying to find the notes. I'd also not worry so much initially about making sure every note in the melody is perfect. Like the very first minutes that you're spending trying to figure out the notes in the key, I would focus on just trying to find the general octave that the song is mostly sitting in. Again, especially with a simpler or more straightforward song. The other thing I recommend as you're working on ear training is really trying to listen for the patterns in the chords. You'll find, again, with simpler songs that you're often going to find that 1-4-5 pattern. In music theory, I've made some videos about that before, and being able to hear when those chords switch and understanding what kind of the likely next chord is when we're dealing with a similar song can help you to feel more confident. The other thing I encourage people to be careful of is to really think about what key it makes sense for a song to be in. This is where I think we can find some interesting discrepancies in music that folks have transcribed themselves, as opposed to something that's professionally done, is they'll often be in the relative minor key or something along those lines because they're looking at the first chord but they're not thinking about it in the context of the rest of the song. So you want to think about when you're hearing that 4 and 5 chord, what are we resolving to, and that should give you a better clue. I'd also encourage you that oftentimes the simplest answer is the correct one. If it's getting too overly complicated and the notation seems to be going off the rails, then we might need to restart and reconsider what key we're in. I think Sarah Bareilles is a really interesting example. Obviously, she's a wonderful composer and songwriter, and what I appreciate is that she really doesn't reach for super outrageous chords or complex chords. She takes, a really solid chord structure and is so beautifully creative and interesting with that. So I found in looking at her pieces, transcribing them, or seeing what other people have transcribed, sometimes we reach for the overly complicated when she's really not doing that so much as just being really creative and ingenious with a simpler chord situation. I also recommend patience. This is one of those things where I truly believe in baby steps, giving yourself time to absorb. You can do all sorts of ear training stuff, whether it's just on the piano, whether you try and listen to a simple song and then play it on the piano, whether you're doing those apps or videos on YouTube. Anything like that can really help to get your ear used to it. You can also just throw on some pop songs on your headphones and then try and just find the chords. Listen to the song and see if you can find the chords that sound right. It does not have to be perfect, and it's one of those skills that really does take time, so it's okay. Let it build up over time. Let it go not amazingly. Let it be a struggle, and what you'll find is little by little you'll be able to pick up those skills better and better. I hope that's helpful. Please feel free to add any more questions to the comments.